Hi, I'm TJ Randall, the Chief Customer Success Officer here at Instruqt, and I'm excited to be here today with Dave Derington, our Director of Customer Education at Service Rocket. Hi, Dave.
Hey TJ, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you today?
Great. Thanks for having me on the show here. I'm great happy to talk with you.
We have a great topic today, the generative AI and customer education. I think this is a pretty hot topic across the industry, really, and I'm sure you have a lot of insights in terms of like the work that you've been doing around that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to talk about here, so well, let's dive into it. I can't wait.
The real question here, I think everybody's starting with is how is generative AI going to affect customer education? Does it make it obsolete? Are we going to be looking for new jobs in 5 years? That's a lot of the chatter you tend to hear. But what are your thoughts there in terms of just the overall approach?
This question's come at me in different directions, and I wouldn't say me specifically, but those of us who represent kind of that de facto, that new leadership, that groundswell of excitement about customer education, we're all talking constantly.
Sure.
And many of us have said, oh, well, what does this mean? What does generative AI mean to us? We've seen all these chat GPT things, all these toolings that come out, all the, even going into visual, creating videos and images and audio and all the things. So this is looming over us, right? We see it, it's coming, it's kind of burgeoning up through marketing and other places. But what does this tool offer me?
Yeah.
And I think starting from that, when I go back and I think I put myself in a role, I used to teach video game design and database design at a university. And in that motif, this is the model all of us carry, particularly in the Western academic system. You go, you sit in chair, you listen to a teacher, you fill out some paper, you do some stuff, and that's changing. COVID blew that up. I watched my children and I watched me in my job trying to engage with people remotely, and now we're stuck.
Yeah.
The tools we had, you can't sit in a seat. You're on a screen, right? We are reluctant from like this inertia of understanding how education works to pick this up. Educators more so because we care so much about an outcome. And if we can't see it, we can't feel it, we can't taste it, it's
Right.
weird. And even more, what if something else is there delivering the content and making that up,
Hmm.
right? Not us. That's why, if I were to lead into this, that it's scary. There's a lot happening. We don't know what's gonna come. So with customer ed, the first thing that gets me is this sizable need for accuracy. Like we have complex workflows that we've got to help educate people on how to use. That's a lot. Products are developing on the fly as we go. Like when I start at a Series A company as a customer education professional, the first time anything's being built, I'm making just docs. But then a year later, I'm making videos, and a year later, I'm making full-blown, interactives with labs, and we're testing people. So I see the first trappings of it really being like a coach. Let me stop there a little bit and see what you're thinking about that, and we can
Oh, I,
spin it.
I think you're actually spot on. There's actually there's a growth curve to this in terms of customer education. That's an important thing to consider. And I
Yeah.
think that, don't you think there's like some easy wins there? To your point, if you're a Series A company, you're probably you have your customer education team is a team of one, and they're working really hard to do a lot of different things. What better tooling can you do to help you summarize some of these kind of nuances that your customers are going to struggle with your software? It's actually a perfect use case to say, hey, let's start to use this. The other
Right.
thing I think you said, it's true. I think at the end of the day, one thing about customer education professionals is there's a sense of caring in terms of the reason why they want to be hands-on is they want to be sure that the learners have accomplished the goals, have basically reached the knowledge that we want to share, and using AI to actually create the content, I feel like is where you're relinquishing control of that. You're like, well, can this thing say it better than I say it? And it's funny, right? It's more feeling and emotion than logic.
I think that's exactly right, TJ. And let's think about this. I wish I could bring it up and I could bring that crossing the chasm curve about the trajectory of a business as it grows over time, or
Right.
the trajectory of a product as that product goes to market.
Yeah.
This is really what we talk about in B2B and B2C SaaS is there's dimensionality with the experience that a person has engaging with the product at the time they do it, early phase company, there's not a lot to do. It's a button, it's a click, okay, I got that. I don't need training for that. 3 years down the road, when you have a platform that integrates several different things, you need an admin to run the platform, you have to set up and do all this other stuff. My God, this is a job, right? The problem that we identify as customer education is non-trivial. It is the emergence of knowledge and the curation of that knowledge over time as the product itself is changing and we're learning and we're growing.
It's almost like it seems like using that generative AI to basically create like more personalized learning, more like more compelling learning, right? It's the catch the user in the moment and recognize that they're struggling in this area.
It's realizing I'm trying to do, like, it being a computer is observing my behavior, and it's looking at data points over time, and it sees that you're using the system a lot. It sees that you're in an administrative role. It tags you, and then it starts feeding you more information like, hey, did you know? I bet you didn't know. Like, we have a certification program. And if you take this and we start doing things that doing little learning interventions over time, and it's feeding me those interventions, wow, it's naturally filling and serving up tools that help fill gaps.
Right.
So I think that's the kernel where AI and machine learning can really fill the gap, and it's not scary in that motion.
Have you seen something recently where like the customer education teams have embraced this kind of AI approach to like solving some of these like gaps?
I can't give a really concrete answer here. What I'm seeing right now, that in a capacity of kind of an analyst, I mean, one of the things that I've had the great fortune and blessing to do, and I'll use this as an opportunity to frame who I am. I play different roles in this community, one being the director of customer education at Service Rocket. One of the roles I play is as a co-host on a podcast, right? And in that, we're talking with a lot of not just practitioners, but folks like yourself, TJ, platforms, and we've got this interesting look at what's happening. What I'm seeing emerging is that many of these platform vendors are going, oh, I see a real need to help our learners in this capacity. One of the natural ones is, how can I serve up the right content and do that in kind of a micro-learning motif, leveraging the content that I have already built, right? Because that content is canonical now. The AI agent can go in and say, well, you can successfully say, go have fun. You can bring these bits of information out and you can put them where you need to know, where you need to, we're knowing that they're valid, right? So those kinds of things I'm seeing start to appear in systems. We're seeing all of the major platforms go, okay, how do we use AI? Let's do this, let's do this. I don't think anything is really clear yet. I don't want to see a lot of vendors and businesses rush to get a solution when that solution is a dynamic emergence of different things. We don't know what it's really going to do for us in 5 years.
It's interesting, don't you think? One of the things that's important, I think, for a lot of these conversations is things like accessibility. Something that in the past has been a challenging area for companies to be able to like solve that, or scale. Even scalability is another huge piece. And I would imagine if this is going to all be successful, if I'm a customer education professional and I'm looking at how I can like help be part of the transformation, those would be the type of areas that I would want to focus on, in terms of like, how can I make sure that my content is applicable and relevant for the most amount of learners possible?
This is a great one to tap on. I have seen a vendor videate. They do video stuff, right? They're not a LMS they're a tool. They're a video tool. DJ, imagine I have a script like we're reading off of for our for our talk, but I have two columns. One column is what to say. One column is what to do. And you let a computer log in, and it goes through and reads the words, and it does a little video, and it spits it out. Okay, this isn't really high-level educational stuff. It's product education, really. I like to kind of differentiate these things because product education, I think, differentiates from customer education a lot of the times in the way that it's really expressing the feature usage, platform usage, and the basics. What can it do? How? Canonically, right? So that if I have that script, well, it's in English. Look, I transact all over the world. I'm in Malaysia and Australia and India and whatever as a company. If I could click the button, say, generate this language, sure, I'm going to pay for that because that system's going to go connect with an API like to Amazon or whatever, do a translation. But when you're looking at a translation correctness and accuracy, even grammatically of over 90%, and it's done with an AI voice and it's delivered on the fly, and those videos can be created and connect to your continuous release or continuous deployment system automatically, queued by changes that happen systemically from your whole platform. And then these videos are just created on the fly, assembled and put in a library and sent out and tagged, flagged, and put when your customers need them. Oh my God, now you've unlocked the world. And this is one of the most stultifying and challenging issues that we as customer education people have. In customer ed, we got to move and target. We don't have time. We got to go, go, go. We got to go to market. It's got to be 0 day. We've got to release content right away because our learners our users are stuck otherwise. And think about if you're in, Japan and you're trying to use the product, but it's all in English. Okay, you can't do that. That is absolutely amazing. And now we're talking not just accessibility. Let's talk ability, disabilities. We could translate into audio. We can translate into, if you wanted to, Braille. We've unlocked the world.
Yep. Yep. And the customer education person has provided that context, which is actually the real key to all of that, right? They're like you said, they're sitting in that kind of CI/CD delivery pipeline as part of the key members of the team to say, okay, here's the most important relevant context that you need to make sure you understand, and then let the engine take it from there, and almost like the presentation layer, so to speak.
Yeah, and when you're thinking about the role that we play, the human agent here, the role of a customer education professional or leader is really to report up through the CCO and make sure the customer experience of learning throughout the entire organization is fluid and correct. And that that goes way beyond just being in customer success.
Yep.
The concept of scale invokes a dire need for education professionals to be seen as people that have a stake in the company's success and have a seat at the table. And if they don't, this is what's behind the transformative nature of what Gainsight did in the market recently by calling out education as being a pillar of success. And success is not limited to just one team. It's organizational wide. Now with an AI, you've now built a flywheel that can be somewhat autonomous. And again, you got to check it or it's going to go, Terminator on you or something. I don't know. but the point is now we have this lever. And so like say, okay, my company wants to expand. Global reach means we've got to go to all these different countries in different languages. Scale is tied into that now because now I can unlock scale for several different reasons. Boom, all my content goes out everywhere it's needed. Now I'm needed in a different capacity, and that capacity is to traffic cop it, validate it, emerge it, get the content to be correct and right and canonically what we need to go forward.
Absolutely. Consistency in that. Absolutely. It actually makes me think too of certifications, and you're talking about coaching. Imagine like in 5 years from now, what a certification program really looks like, which is, the goal of this thing is to make sure somebody is truly an expert in this particular system or technology. And isn't it interesting when we think about these, like, again, I think about context, how AI can provide a much better coaching experience that's driven by education professionals to say, okay, if you want to be certified, here's your path. And as you go through your path, if you need additional coaching, let's add that in as well. Let's make sure you're truly certified.
Can we go deep and can we talk about your platform a little bit?
Of course.
Well, because I think I want to riff off what you just said and think about we're using Instruqt. We can use your platform to affect a big part of that and layer an AI on that experience we're having with the Instruqt platform, right? What I appreciate about the platform is I can get hands-on, I can do all this stuff, right? And you're teaching me in the moment. Now we're layering onto that. Now imagine we have a platform, we have a sandbox and a place where we're learning and we're using the tool, like we're learning. And I do this, and I do this, and I do this. Well, all that data is there behind the scenes in the AI has seen what I'm doing. So where I had to check this box to say, do this, this, and this, and have this outcome. Check. Well, the computer saw it. Do this one. And I can be doing it over and over again. Now I have a grid of 10 things. Now the system goes, okay, we need to go back and practice these a few more. And then it feeds up a test, and it changes the test, and it does that, and it connects with my certification platform, and then it gives me a badge. And so now the act of emerging that, or act of taking somebody through that is, they're learning, they're doing it all along.
That's right.
And maybe they're doing coaching and the system comes back and says, hey, Dave, like now it's an AI listening to my voice and I'm doing a teach back like a sales engagement or sales enablement program. And it's saying, yep, Dave hit this. Yep, Dave hit that tech. Oh, he didn't do this one or this one. And it automatically sends something. And now I don't have a human being to waste their time doing that.
That's right. One of the things we think a lot about is when, just to stay on certification for a second, whether it's, training,
Yeah.
to your point, is if I watch somebody, let's the old school days, right? If we're in a workshop, I'm standing over your shoulder and I'm watching you do, step 7 of 10 for your certification. And I'm watching you and I notice that like you keep making the same mistake in terms of like the 3-step process to check the box. How phenomenal would it be to able to say, hey, before we tell you failed on step 7 or you just eke by on step 7, I want you to do this piece of learning, which is actually expounds on the concepts of step. And I don't know. Let's say it's command
Yeah.
line, grep commands or some crazy thing that you just need to know. I think that actually enriches your go-to-market if you're a company that says, hey, we're going to help you certify your users, because that user at the end of the day is going to, when they have the stamp, yep, they're certified, we've even validated their weaker points to make sure that they know that they didn't just get lucky because it's a Tuesday. And I think what you just said too, if maybe your system is a coaching system for BDRs and sales reps in terms of staying on script, maybe as it listens to that and it hears like, wow, you're not using a lot of the value drivers that are important to our product and our go-to-market. So don't fail the person per se. Let's take them on a little bit of a learner journey. Let's do the side
Mhm.
track and say, let's make sure you know these things. And I think
Exactly.
that's the context that a person still provides in this AI world, because they can build out those learning models of like reinforcement. So I got to ask, another thing, the topic that comes up all the time is privacy and data protection.
Ooh.
What are you thinking as you talk about it with your peers and your teams around that? Is there some concerns there?
As someone who's been, at one point I was working in a very large company as an enterprise security program manager, and I've seen a lot, and there's a lot of scary stuff out there. When we talk about privacy, data protection, all that globally, yeah, there's a lot to it, but I think an AI might actually do a lot better at forcing us to stick to topic and make sure we're
Yeah.
not sharing information and like looking out for it. But I'd say what troubles me more is governance. I think we can mitigate problems around privacy because that's about a user. What we're talking about under the hood is, yeah, I've got user information. I know who they are. I know where they're going. I know what they're clicking. That could be a legal problem, especially in Europe or maybe California. But what I worry more about is that people are getting the right information, and we don't let an agent go off the reels and collect a bunch of stuff and start saying things that's not true. It's
Yeah.
really important that we're reconciling and we're ensuring what an AI agent would be delivering is correct.
Right. Right.
And yeah, of course, systemically we can make sure it's not going to share any data or let it get spilled out all over the internet.
Right, right. But I think you're right. I think at the end of the day, you have to have a level of ownership that says we own whatever we're producing. And whether
Yeah.
that was human presented or AI presented, there has to be some governance in place that just says we have to make sure we're doing the right things.
Hmm.
It's a little too easy to, to get lazy. I think, don't you think that's what the universities are struggling with these kids with, can ChatGPT, create term papers? In a weird way, you're like, I get it that it makes it easier, but man, oh man, if I was a student trying to get an A, I wouldn't just like hand in something that I didn't take a look at first and validate, and I know that's a simplistic example, but
I mean, I don't think that's a simplistic answer at all, TJ, because this is really a sophisticated challenge that we as human beings are going to have to get over. Now we have AI tools that can do a lot for us, but it's the same critical thinking issue that we need to be teaching more of. Schools should be teaching critically thinking, not worrying about grammar and writing and all that stuff. Not to say you shouldn't know how to do it,
yeah,
but a computer is going to do that for us. We don't have to do that anymore.
yeah,
And so now it's, do you have authority and autonomy over the information that's being communicated? But the
yeah,
biggest issue for me is the experience that I've had watching my customers be educated by, like, say, a CSM who said the platform could do something and it can't, or a sales agent, even worse, who have told and taught somebody wrong information, and now who's liable?
Yeah, yeah. So it's almost like I think the benefit of consistency far outweighs, obviously, like, the presentation of it. But to your point, I think it's important. You still have to own that. So any final topics, anything that we missed today, anything you want to share?
There's in customer education, a lot of us are kind of these tech people who are not just educators. We're both and. We are, we know technology, we love technology, and we're that explainer in chief a lot of the time.
Right.
And people like me pop up in companies in enablement and education and L&D and stuff because we just love to teach and talk about stuff, and it's really cool. But and what I want for our community and our network, if I'm speaking to my network of people, is to really take this as an opportunity to think deeply about the use cases we have, all we've talked about just now, where generative AI help our learners, whomever they may be. We are going to use these tools, we're going to purchase these tools at an organizational level, and they have to feed all of the different, don't get siloed, right? Work for the whole. The unity of the educational program is important across all domains. And then, if I can compel you to do anything, is be really freaking skeptical, right? Do never take face value what something is giving you. Always just, scrutinize what's the source, just like we talked about. What's the source of the information? These are emerging technologies. They're really cool. People get really hot on them. A lot of companies like, yeah, I'm going to get that, and then everything goes that way. Now everything. You imagine turning a fire hose of knowledge loose on the world, pointing it to your internal database, and you know what? Everybody contribute to that in a democratized way. You know what? It's garbage. Now customers are getting garbage. Be cautious, be skeptical, but be excited, because this is the moment in time where we've got an opportunity to do something we've never been able to do before. I can live with a team of 3 or 4 people if I had in an early phase company. I won't need all these people doing the content, but I need people with critical thinking, skepticism, and a willingness and an open mind and an open heart to new technologies, and to be there to help curate and help emerge this knowledge and help our folks.
That's great advice. It reminds me, Dave, I had a boss once who said that in America there was 2 fields next to each other, like in Iowa, and in one field there's a farmer with a horse and a plow, and in the next field, a John Deere tractor showed up. The first John Deere tractor in Iowa County, and the horse farmer said, like, you can't do that. Those engines won't last like a horse. And I think right now this is our moment. Is like, don't be a raise your fist and say this isn't going to work. It's almost like, think about how can we experiment with this, and how can we use this, and you're going to be quite happy, I think, with the results.
Are you very happy with it? If you do it right, this is a great moment in time.
That's awesome. Dave, thanks for your time today and your thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you too, TJ. This is great. Appreciate the opportunity.